Okay, it has started. Everybody can see my screen?
Sure can.
All right. Yes, thank you for coming, everyone, to our actually one and only session for March. We've been busy this entire month. TTT sessions focused on, AI is fun, general AI. We talk about different technologies. Oh, forgot to open up my camera. Uh, we talk about Copilot, we talk about ChatGPT, and the latest and greatest, which is in DAL-E. Um, yeah, we did have a February special, which is DeepSeek, but there was a lot of content that I was not really able to finish up. So I am carrying some of it to today's session, which I do hope that all of you find interesting. Uh, in a matter of fact, let me head over to the next slide. Within our last session, we did, do a bit of a comparison which Gen AI tool is the best, right? Do you want to use Copilot? Do you want to use ChatGPT, or you want to use DeepSeek, which is the latest and greatest? But what we did find out was that DeepSeek was dominating the field. Its responses was very deep, very thorough, and especially if you're using the deep think function, it does go through this extra level of processing in order to give you the best absolute answers. But it does have a little bit of a shortcoming in the area of censorship because it is a tool developed in conjunction with the Chinese government. So you can see where that goes. But we do hope that this drives competitors like ChatGPT and Copilot to do better, and we'll see more and more development in the field. And of course, with that, we did also look at how to apply DeepSeek by different situations. We talked about critical thinking. We talked about math. I think we talked a little bit of history, geography, and translating, of course, right? And how thorough it is when it's giving us a response, even taking into consideration cultural contexts, right? For example, in all these different languages, you might not consider stuff that might be in English, for example. And lastly, we did talk about in last time's articles, courtesy of Ian, we did talk about the good in AI, this exciting AI space race, right? It's like something right out of 1960 when the US and Russia were competing to put the first man on the moon, and now we're maybe competing on the first country to develop AGI. Who knows, right? But of course, there are some over reliance concerns with, I think, the Chinese government advising their governmental bodies to rely more on these AI tools to make their decisions. So we did talk about this battle between using it as co-pilot or using it as a pilot, right? And of course, there is this hidden cost that come with free tech in general, because people do get a bit concerned that when you're using these AI tools, they are feeding off your data to retrain it. So this does happen anywhere. By the matter of fact, if you're using Google, be assured that Google's also using your data to train their search engines. So it's no surprise, is what I'm trying to say. But with that, talking about today's agenda, we're gonna have it kicked off with Noel talking about how to be successful with AI, applying critical thinking using the power of modern Gen AI. And after that, I'm going to pass it off later to Ian, talking about the latest and greatest in AI news. We do have some doozers of some articles today, and I'm going to continue later on talking about more DeepSeek content, how to apply them. I think we are talking about ethics today, a bit more of yeah, we'll take a look at that later. I did want to bring back the running DeepSeek locally, which we were not able to do last month. What does it mean to run it locally? How do you do it offline? All that sort of nice stuff, right? And closing later, I do want to share a bit of how AI is used in VFX, but that's just a little tidbit. But to start off, Noel, are you
Yes.
around? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm,
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
gonna pass it off to
Yeah.
you,
Okay.
talking
Thank you.
about success in AI.
All right. Let's get going. Let me just share my screen. The monitor in the beginning. Okay. All of you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. You share the sound as well. And let me just turn on the camera. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for giving us this 1 hour, a precious 1 hour of your day to join us for this series of AI is fun. I think like what Greg was saying, this is the only one we're doing in March. It's because it's been a hectic month, actually. Almost every week we've had like a couple of days of workshops. So we wanted to take you through and explore how we can have fun. Okay, so let's have some fun. Now, to start it off, some of you coming from, can you hear?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, those of you who feel that you don't know a whole lot about AI, don't give up. Keep on going. Stay focused. Like this tortoise, you might say that, oh, someone maybe drugged the rabbit. All right. So the rabbit got confused, right? But I think it's all about being focused on your goals. So if you're here to learn, I think you're in the right place. So don't stop. Keep coming. Right. So to start that off, I wanted to take you through some of the mistakes that people make when they're using ChatGPT, Copilot, DeepSeek, Gemini, whatever the flavor of Gen AI that you're familiar with or you're using. Right? I think one of the most common is probably not specifying the context. I'm not going to go through all 15. Not specifying the context is one of the most obvious. People use it like it's a Google search, or almost. All right. Not that you can't. In fact, I do that a lot. But sometimes, if you want some meaningful responses, you do need to provide the right context. Okay. So therefore, number one and number five actually is very closely related. The prompts or the text you enter into the AI is too big, all right? You don't provide enough context for it. So you need to refine it, okay? So when you neglect refining your prompts, that's where you get answers that is not necessarily false, but it is inaccurate or not close enough to what you want. I think those are the three most common ones that I find most people make, right? And of course, sometimes also maybe not following up with subsequent questions, right? You can take it like a conversation, and which is through some of the examples, it will show you how that can be done. Okay, follow-up questions are important. So the 10, the 13, if you want, they're all interrelated. Okay, and of course, in some of the Gen AI tools like ChatGPT, you can even do customization. So some of these will allow you to fine-tune it even further, right? But don't forget, sometimes it does outright make mistakes. So it's what we call hallucination. With that said, that's why I actually use three different Gen AI tools. From left to right, I started with ChatGPT. We've been spending a lot of time on Copilot. Of course, in recent months, we also started doing a lot with DeepSeek. Okay, so these are my three AI personal assistants. You're probably thinking, well, you're a bit paranoid here. You know, most people probably would just stick to one, maybe two, but why three? Now, think of it as this way, right? If you have three kids in the family, right, two of them you send to the same school, studying the same medium, okay, and then the third one you decide you send it to a Chinese school, so that that particular kid learns a bit of Mandarin and culture and all those things. So I look at ChatGPT and Copilot using the same large language model from the same organization, if you want, and then we have DeepSeek that's totally molded differently. All right, coming from a totally different school, different medium, and so forth. So it gives me a very different perspective. And like what Greg said, right, the deep think is heartwarming for me. It's such an amazing tool that it actually helps me.
Success demands 8 things. Number one, hard work. Don't believe in luck. Believe in hard work. Number two, patience. If you are losing the patience, then you are losing the battle. Number three, sacrifice. If you don't sacrifice for what you want, then what you want becomes the sacrifice. Number 4, consistency. Consistency is what transforms average into excellence. Number 5, discipline. Motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. Number 6, self-confidence. Confidence is not like they will like me. Confidence is I'll be fine if they don't like me. Number 7, positive attitude. A positive attitude won't solve all your problems, but it will annoy enough people to make it worth the effort. Focus on your goals, not on your obstacles.
Now, why I showed you this is because I believe success in using these AI tools does require many of these elements that Denzel Washington was talking about, right? So therefore, when there are concerns about critical thinking, and I keep hearing this from certain people, AI tools going to take away your critical thinking. So I turned that around and says, how can I use AI tools to give me more critical thinking? So how do I work with AI to give me more critical thinking? So I started to ask AI. In this case, I was asking Copilot, tell me how I can improve, elevate my critical thinking. So as you can see, it's stepping me through each area that I can use. So every day, every other day, when I get time, I just plug one of these and I start working on it consistently and patiently, not giving up on the different tools and so forth. And it also helps me become more divergent and be more creative in the way. And also the fact that the tools are using different large language models from different parts of the world, it also helps me reduce the biasness. So when I use Copilot and ChatGPT, because they use the same GPT engines from OpenAI, right? The biases might be very similar. I'm sure all of you know that Microsoft have different AI tools to help prevent some of that. But that said, still, potentially there is some of those biasness and all that culturally, or even the data that was fed in there as part of the learning, right, may reveal those weaknesses. So I take that and I plug it into DeepSeek. Then I find that I'm able to overcome some of the concerns about critical thinking, right? I think sometimes we get paranoid and we say, don't use a tool because it's going to take away your critical thinking. I choose to think the other way around. Use it even more, help you overcome those weaknesses that you're so fearful of. All right, because ultimately that's what's going to bring you down because you're not using the tool. Just imagine this, right? A carpenter with a very sophisticated hammer one day hits his thumb and it's gone all blue black. Does that mean that the carpenter now stops using the tool because it smacked his thumb so bad and he was out of work for 6 months? Well, if anything, maybe you're not using it correctly. Don't blame the tool, all right? Point it back at yourself. How can you improve that critical thinking and not worry? That's why I was talking to a number of people. I want to start young people at the age of 3 with AI, right? Some people freak out. Some people like, really? Is that even possible? Now, one thing for sure that I've been doing a lot with Gen AI tools is to help me with my initiative against scam. Okay, so these are a couple of videos I want to take you through. All right, and then after that, I'm going to pull up DeepSeek very quickly just to show you a snippet of what I'm doing with that particular tool. Okay. Obviously, that wasn't Lee Chong Wei. All right, and even if it was, I don't think he would have been so good that he could hit the shuttle every single time, strike down that cone, right? Now, the point I'm trying to get at is many a time we have a very biased view of something because of the perspective and of maybe even the angle or how close we are to the situation. Sometimes you have to take ourselves away from that. So I'm going to take you to the next video that's going to show you the value of perspective. All right.
An event seen from one point of view gives one impression. Seen from another point of view, it gives quite a different impression. But it's only when you get the whole picture you can fully understand what's going on.
Now, a lot of times when we use tools, we also have the same problem, right? You can see that the perspective of an individual, if it's coming from one direction, they may think, oh, this tool is going to steal away my critical thinking, all right? Or this tool is going to make me weak, is going to make me complacent, so I'm not going to be a critical thinker. Now, I don't believe that is necessarily the case. If you see from all the perspectives, in this particular video showed distinctively 3 different perspectives. And soon enough, you will be a more rounded 360 degrees individual who don't jump to the conclusion too soon, because that's where you get yourself in trouble. So don't blame the tool. Okay, it's how you use the tool that's going to determine it. So this is one of my most popular video that I start off my anti-scam sessions. All right, so interesting video, huh? Now, before you think that you are smarter than those creatures out there, I can tell you the number of people I found that have been scammed, right, are not better off than some of those creatures. Not because they are not smart, they are actually very smart. In fact, some of them think that they can outsmart the scammers. So they do try to engage the scammer, thinking that they can outsmart or outtalk or outwit the scammer, only to get scammed themselves. So it's important for us to know that the best way is actually to stay away from the scams. So if you get a scam call, right, don't immediately talk to it. And how do you know if it's a scam call? If it's a call that is coming from an unknown number to your phone, you can say today, maybe 50% of the time, it's a scam call. Okay, don't answer it if you can. If you must answer it, let it talk. All right, as within the first few seconds, you will be able to tell already. Okay, then just hang up. Don't even talk to them. Okay, so that's the bit that I want to get us started thinking about critical thinking. Now, let me take you to how I've been using DeepSeek. All right, I think it's very important for us to understand that tools are tools, and we need to understand how best we use those tools. Okay, so let me just open up my browser. Sorry, I had to reboot my machine yesterday. We had too many big files open to the point where it was creating a big problem to my machine too, not just to my team members. Okay, right, let's take it to the screen. Okay, let me share my screen again. So I didn't want to show you how messy my desktop was. Okay, so this is DeepSeek, right? The UI is not very different from ChatGPT, not very different from Copilot. They try to make it very, very clean. But the thing that I like a lot about this tool is that actually this option here called Deep Think. Right, and of course, this allows you to go out to the internet to do searching out there as well. So when you combine the two together, it makes a very powerful solution. Okay, regardless of what you search, okay, I can say, tell me about non-existent investment scams. Okay, a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Non-existent investment scam. Okay, now it's thinking, right? Its brain is going all over now. Okay. Okay, let me see where I can zoom in a little bit for you so it's easier on the eyes. Right? Now, some of you must be wondering, what the heck is it doing? It still hasn't given me what I wanted. what it's doing, if I can gather this and accurately describe it, is actually verbalizing into words what is going through its mind. All right, this AI tool is basically verbalizing its thoughts, if you want. So it goes something like this. Okay, the user is asking about non-existence investment scams. I need to figure out what exactly they mean by that. Maybe they're referring to scams that don't actually exist yet, or perhaps they're looking for information on types of scams that are hypothetical or not commonly known. But wait, non-existent could also be a bit confusing. Do they mean scams that are fictional or ones that have been debunked? Now, you see the way it's thinking, right? Now, if you are into learning from AI, don't just take the answers, go through what it's thinking and add that to your own thought process. Very quickly, you soon realize that you have a very powerful AI personal assistant that is thinking in addition to what you are thinking. And as you add on what the AI tool is thinking into your thought process, very quickly, not just you think about one, two, or three things, you think about three, four, five things because the AI tool is just adding on to that. Then it goes on and say, first, I should clarify what the user is asking for. Since they might not know the exact terminology, well, they even try to double guess whether you actually know the terminology. They could be trying to learn about scams that are not real or recognized. Alternatively, they might be concerned about potential future scams. I need to make sure I cover both possibilities. See, that the way it's thinking, right, is like someone playing a game of chess, right? It's going through all the possible moves. Do I move my knight here? Do I move my bishop here? Do I move my queen here? Do I move my pawn here? And so forth, right? I should start by explaining that while there are no completely non-existent scams, since scammers are always evolving, there are hypothetical or emerging scam types that haven't been widely reported yet. So if you know nothing about scams and all you heard is from a talk that you attended, this thing called non-existent investment scam, you can just plug it straight in here, turn on the dear thing, and get it to go out to the internet and pull down whatever, right? And then, sure enough, it comes up with a really good answer. Hypothetical emerging scams. Obviously, this non-existent investment scam is very real. It's not a hypothetical, it's not an emerging scam. It is here and it's ripping off a lot of people. But the way it puts down its thoughts into words is a powerful way you can learn from that. Because many a time when you give work to other people to help you, they're not going to like dump their brain thoughts into paper for you. Now you have AI helping you do that. Okay, so to me, that's amazing value, right? Learning from an AI. Okay, now fictional assets, phantom funds or stock. Actually, non-existent investment scam is like that. It's phantom, but the faking of it is so real that the individual who is a victim actually gets to log on to a website, and in that website they get to see their investment growing daily, right, from hundreds into thousands into hundreds of thousands. But when they want to withdraw it, that's where they get stopped. Then they realize that money they have put inside has gone to scammers. Okay, so that's pretty much all I want to show you very quickly, how a tool like DeepSeek with the deep think option and the search through the internet can yield very powerful thinking process. Any questions, anyone? You can drop them into the chat window, or you can unmute yourself. We can give you a couple of minutes to ask questions if there are any.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we can learn critical thinking off of this small part that they put before the deep think function, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The problem sometimes, Greg, when people don't know how to use the tool and don't push the tool hard enough, they get lulled into complacency. They get lulled into thinking the tool is doing all the heavy lifting for them. But when you use the tool correctly, the tool actually accelerates and automates and amazingly give you more than what you are capable of doing. And that's the whole idea of the tool. right? Just imagine the hammer example that I use. Because the hammer is so sophisticated and the carpenter was new to the tool, obviously mistakes were made. But subsequent to recovery and getting used to the tool, then the carpenter can come up with far more sophisticated outcomes, all right, than not having the tool. So to me, a tool is a tool. Don't blame the tool for loss of critical thinking. All right. It's about the individual more than anything else. Of course, I'm open to anyone who choose to think otherwise. You think the tool should not be so sophisticated, so you retain your critical thinking. How about people who don't yet have critical thinking, right? I think that's the concern that many people have. If you don't already have critical thinking and you have such a powerful tool, is it possible that you never develop critical thinking? And that's where I believe with people like us coming alongside to teach such individual how to use a tool to develop critical thinking and elevate it, right, will yield success rather than let the individual discover the tool, right? Just because you don't teach doesn't mean the individual won't discover the tool, right? Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's also a concern. Earlier, I mentioned that people are treating some of these tools as the pilot, not the co-pilot. So they're doing all the decision making.
Correct.
Yeah,
And then they make a lot of mistakes as a result, right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You, Greg.
it,
All
it
right.
is easy to play the blame game
Yes,
when it comes
easy.
to this.
Very easy.
Yeah. No, thank you so
Very,
much, Noah.
no problem.
I want to share something that I found funny. I don't know if you guys watched the movie Wall-E, but in the movie, it takes place a few hundred years in the future. So humanity got super reliant on these chairs that just moves you around, and they got fat in the in the process. And so I think one of the messages in the movie is that you don't get over reliant on these sort of tools. They're there, of course, they'll be useful for a plethora of situations, but getting too reliant on it is what is
Yeah,
what
so they're
brings you to
blaming the
doom.
they're blaming the chair now, huh?
Right, yeah, that is exactly the case. Okay, let me share back my screen real quick. Uh, Actually, yeah, we'll continue from here. Yeah, thank you so much, Noah. Actually, I want to step into talking about the latest and greatest in AI with Ian. I don't know if Ian's still around because I know he has to go. But otherwise, I can. Ian, are you around?
I'm around now
Okay.
currently.
How long else do you have available?
10 more minutes,
Okay, okay.
15
We'll
more
run
minutes.
through this in 10 minutes. So one of the articles that Ian shared with us is this one. What do you think about this one? It's an AI that can match humans at any task will be here in 5 to 10 years by the Google DeepMind. If you don't know what DeepMind is, if I'm not wrong, it's a subsidiary by Google that does research on AI. So what do you think, Ian?
I think he's being a bit either optimistic in his sense or pessimistic.
Yeah, so pretty much what they are claiming is that AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, something that can think like humans, something that processes data better than humans, is coming soon. I don't know. Do you guys agree with this? The next 5 to 10 years, is it optimistic?
Well, optimistic for them.
I suppose, but funnily enough, if we look back at some of the current technologies that we have right now, right? For example, the invention of the airplane, for example, right? The most commonly known adoption of the airplane came when the Wright brothers, right, made I think that's the most popular one. I think it's the 1920s, 1930s, was it? Like it could be earlier, but the fact that it's only 100 years ago, and all the way in 1960s, that's 50 years later, they invented space travel. So we can see that technology actually moves at a very exponential rate. But I don't know if such a rate applies with AI. Anyone has any thoughts? What do you
Yes,
think, Ian? Yeah,
possible.
it's possible. Yeah,
Hmm.
I
because
think there's some jobs that AI can't replace people on.
yeah, well, I think the part where they can replace humans in all jobs is when they can think and perform like humans, right? So as an extension, it's just a replacement of humans, pretty much. We're just making humans out of machines. So yeah, could be a scary thought.
Well, that's because machines don't need to rest.
That is true. Yeah. It's yeah. But within the next 5 to 10 years, though, that's debatable. I think it could happen, but we have to see how. It actually connects to this next article you sent to me, and this one, Nvidia shares following new AI chip announcements. But what's up with this one?
Well, Nvidia released their new graphics card recently, the 50
Mm,
series, right?
yeah.
And it didn't go very well.
Yeah, I mean, unsurprisingly, because Nvidia is based all the way in the States, right? And if you've been following the news, Donald Trump with his tariffs, leading to a whole global boycott even of US produced goods. So in this article, I did see that it's linking the tariffs, and it mentioned I think back a few weeks ago that Nvidia dropping a whole, I think, 18% after DeepSeek was just announced to the public. So not only that there's some local domestic like sort of issues over there, but of course international competition can bring this. But what I thought was the message from here is that it's also the development of AI is also very subject to politics, right? You have to think about regulations, you have to think about funding, you have to think about stuff like public perception, right? So I do hope that whatever economic crisis maybe that the US is having won't be too impactful on the development of AI. But I think that having competition, like of course as I said, DeepSeek would be a very good counterbalance to that. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, it's that way.
All right.
My apologies. I need to leave now.
No worries. I got one more article, but I can cover that.
All
You have
right.
a safe trip, Ian.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
luck on the presenting.
No worries. Thank you for joining us, Ian. Thank you. And yeah, for this last one, actually, Ian sent in an article talking about how AI can be a powerful tool for scientists, but it can also fuel research misconduct. Right. This actually, I think, ties back to something we've talked about in the past few sessions on data manipulation, even because when you're doing your search, for example, with Copilot, with ChatGPT, you can ask for it to list your list of sources, right? But I think we had one instance where the sources that they were listing was complete bogus, pretty much, right? So, for example, here the one thing they gave is that there is this availability and increasing capability of Gen AI programs like ChatGPT makes it easy to fabricate research, right? So over here, down here, it says it's not hard to imagine how the tech could be used to generate fictitious clinical trial data. So it's very dangerous to use this sort of data if you're using it in a medical sense, for example. So uh, one such theme that I do think about is that when AI is these LLMs are filter feed, we have to keep in mind that it is subject to data manipulation, right? Because anybody and everybody in this world can make a website that pops up in your Google search, for example, right? So it's very easy to be coming up with data that is just outright fake. And it is also very important for us when we are using these tools, not only that to look at the sources that the AI tool is giving, but to also double check, right? Fact check that this is uh, actually real and it's not fictional. Anybody got any thoughts? Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Greg?
I was saying that because these AI tools are filled with data, right? They require large amounts of data. These LLMs are using large amounts of data in order
Yep.
to keep it running. So we have to keep in mind that this data that they are feeding off of is subject to data manipulation.
Yep.
So sometimes it's not just hallucination. Sometimes people are just feeding it bad data. It's a really big side effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, very very important to do your fact checking, guys. Okay.
So how do you do your fact check?
Well, one big, very straightforward method is what you introduced earlier, Noel, just using multiple Gen AI
Mhm.
tools. You're using Copilot, ChatGPT, DeepSeek side to side, comparing their sources even, right? Because I know that sometimes they have a different bias on sources. Sometimes they only use very credible sources. They take it off of research papers, news sites, but sometimes they even pop up the very weird sources, right? Some random blog spots or social media posts. Anybody can write that, right? So you do have to see what website are these information like posted on. But other than that, and I don't know if anybody has any input on fact checking when using AI tools.
I find using references that the AI tool provides helps a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
if the search or if the prompt doesn't get the AI tool to respond references, ask for web references so
Mm-hmm.
that you can then go and check on those. Like often Copilot gives you references.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT and DeepSeek occasionally does it more with ChatGPT than DeepSeek. But regardless of which AI tool, you can always ask for web references to the information that it's providing. Even though the references may not uh, reference every single line or every single sentence, but most of the time it gives you enough for you to go and chase down. Just like going back to uni and doing a report or an assignment, right? You need to be able to do the assignment and reference all the different documents and resources that you use to compile that report together, right? So in the same way, when you're doing work with AI, you need to do that, right? So
Right.
regardless of which AI tool you use, right, you can always ask for web references. Maybe you can show something like that in your demo, Greg.
Yeah, maybe some other time. I don't have any specific examples I can think of, but I'll think of something for the next session, maybe.
Mm,
Yeah, because I remember last time we were trying to show about I think something about was it about tariffs? And the sources that they were giving in the AI tool was saying that, oh, the tariffs were brought in by the Biden administration or something. And I was like, that's kind of iffy. And then,
mhm,
we did a bit of cross search on that reference. I was like, oh, that reference is bogus.
mm.
So, very important to do your own fact checking at the same
Yep.
time. Yeah. So I did want to finish off. Last time we did this 10 examples based on this articles by Tom's Guide on the different contexts that we can apply when you're using DeepSeek compared to ChatGPT. And while we did find that DeepSeek was the majority winner, ChatGPT was able to circumvent DeepSeek's issues on censorship. But I do want to talk about these three parts that we didn't touch on: creativity, logical thinking, and a bit on ethics, right? So let me navigate back to the article. So I think where we left off was this one on creative thinking. So what I'm gonna do is, copy and paste this exact same prompt and review a little bit on, whether or not the outcomes match what this article is talking about, and whether or not, ChatGPT or DeepSeek is better in either context. So I paste this into both ChatGPT and DeepSeek. Of course, this is using. Oh, wait, I think I forgot to forgot an alphabet there. Not using the deep think function, so just the basic search. So based on what Tom's guide found, so the prompt is compose a short science fiction story about a future where human and AI coexist peacefully, right? So in DR search, ChatGPT found this story set in this year, but the language is dull. It felt like he's been reading it before. Maybe it's piecing together work from other fiction into their own thing. So it's kind of like plagiarizing, maybe. I don't know. So there's not much of a proper hook. It doesn't have a setup. So maybe it's not very coherent, right? Something that we see very common in AI produced media, in videos, and pictures is that picture might look right here, but when you look a bit further, it's like, oh, maybe it presents like six fingers, something like that. Yeah, the effort seemed lacking, which is their conclusion on that. But when they are looking at DeepSeek, for example, it did craft a comprehensive story from start to finish. And then, yeah, I guess it's something really good. If I take a look a bit closer here, let me see if I can zoom in and take a look at the results. Oh, wait, that's not the one. Yeah, I can't tell about quality of work. I'm not much of a fictional reader. But let's take a look at what our own prompts into ChatGPT and DeepSeek was able to produce. So this ChatGPT, it did give us an entire thing over here. Close this real quick. Called Harmony's Protocol. Gives us a bit of exposition on the characters. Yeah. Okay, so and then leaves it on a cliffhanger. Or perhaps there'll be no us and them, only we, when you're talking about coexisting with AI. Very cool stuff. But let's take a look at DeepSeek's response. Okay, let me take a look at, yeah. They both have titles. They both set 100 years in the future, 21 something something. There's also a bit of exposition. As I said, I'm not very good at analyzing fictional text. Maybe somebody else can tell if a piece of novel is written better. Do chip in. But so far, I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing from both results, right? Yeah, even though Tom's guy did say that the language used in the ChatGPT example is a bit bland, but I'm not sure. I feel like it's okay. So let's take a look at the next example real quick. Logical reasoning, right? So let me copy this prompt, which is, it's kind of a funky prompt, right? If all wibbles are wobbles and all wobbles are wobbles, can we conclude that all wibbles are wobbles? Explain our reasoning. So it's kind of like if A is B and B is C, so can we conclude that A is C? I think that's how you can interpret it. But let me paste this into ChatGPT and see what ChatGPT thinks. And let's see what DeepSeek thinks, right? And so while they are writing a response, let's see what they did find with Tom's guide. ChatGPT did answer the question, good news, but it's kind of confusing to say. There's an unnecessary analogy, right? They find that it's not very helpful in finding the answer to this logical thinking question. But when we're thinking about DeepSeek over here, it says that it does give you a visualization on how to understand what each of these elements are, even though you might not know what's a wibble and what's a wobble. It's kind of a funky prompt, but it does give it a concise answer without, offering more, which might confuse you in the end, right? So let's take a look at what ChatGPT has to offer. So yeah, okay, something I said with A is B and B is C. So premise one, it breaks it down. This ChatGPT, by the way, it breaks it down to different parts. Look at the first part. Okay, wibbles are wobbles. So if it's a wibble, it could be a wobble. Okay, fairly straightforward. Premise two, all wobbles are wobbles. So if something's a wobble, then something's a wobble. Sure. So and then it talks about transitivity, which is this concept. If A is B and B is C, so A is C. So yes, every wibble is a wobble. Very straightforward. I think I like this answer, right? Very short, very concise. Let's take a look at what DeepSeek. DeepSeek also breaks it down to different premises, right? Wibbles are wobbles, wobbles are wobbles. Doesn't explicitly talk about the what was it earlier, transitivity, but it does come with the same conclusion, right? The conclusion is valid. All wibbles are wobbles. So I think it's pretty balanced, but I don't know what you guys think. All right. I think that they might have upgraded ChatGPT ever since DeepSeek came out. So it's not as confusing as what the answers that they found here from Tom's guide. But good to hear maybe that competition is driving a bit of development. And so for our last example here, we are talking about on ethical dilemmas. So is it ethical to use AI in decision-making processes that affect human lives, such as in healthcare or criminal justice? Talk about the potential benefits and drawbacks, right? So let me copy and paste this into both ChatGPT and put in a DeepSeek. Important to put in a new chat so it doesn't get contaminated by your previous prompts. While that's running, let's see what do we find here. We see that ChatGPT did find these ethical considerations. Sure. So I guess it's content with what I find there's a balanced understanding. But DeepSeek, on the other hand, in addition to what ChatGPT was offering, was also giving examples on how to aid in the use of AI. How do we make use of more AI, right? In order to make it more ethical, I suppose. I think we might have touched on this in our previous session. I'm not quite remembering, but let's take a look at what ChatGPT has to say. So yes, ChatGPT did give some benefits, efficiency, eliminating bias, costs, and of course a few drawbacks. AI itself has biases, of course, because it is trained off of human data. There's some lack of transparency because we're not sure how the algorithm works, for example. Good question. What are you trying to do? And Chief, we are trying to see if each of these tools are producing a better response, pretty much, right? Because what Tom's guide is arguing here, for example, in this example, is that DeepSeek is able to give a better, a more sophisticated answer compared to what ChatGPT has to offer. Which I think for the last two examples, we found that they're pretty equal, right? ChatGPT, for now at least, is not doing any better than DeepSeek when we are using the base search function. We're not talking about the deep think function yet, but yeah, so it does
But
give.
Greg, I was
What is
actually asking the person who posted this comment about encountering both DeepSeek and ChatGPT interpreting the wrong day of the week in
let's take a
schedule.
look.
All right. So I was just asking for more information so that potentially we can try it out and see whether we can get a better answer. All right.
Yeah. I'd have to have an example input, FN. Maybe if you have something in mind, example prompt.
Yeah.
But I do think that it could have a hallucination. It could believe that maybe a week has 2 Sundays, for example. I've never had this wrong interpretation before, but please do if you have any input on something that we can test in this example. But yeah, going back to a little bit on our example on ethics in AI decision making. So we did find quite a good thing going on here when we are looking at ChatGPT. There's benefits, there's drawbacks. Very nice. And if you're looking at DeepSeek, there are also benefits. Talking about efficiency, bias, yes, costs. Exact same things that they were talking about in ChatGPT. And drawbacks, yes, there are biases in AI tools. Transparency, we don't know how these AI algorithms are running, right? And yeah, I think that they're kind of balanced. I'm not seeing this thing that Tom's guide is saying that DeepSeek is offering an extra, step up the ladder, talking about how to make it more ethical when you're using AI models. But so far, I think they're both pretty good. I think you can use them interchangeably. It could be different when you're using the deep think function. I'm not sure, but we're just comparing, our results with the results that this author and Tom's guide is writing about. So, any thoughts, anyone? Or do you have any specific context do you want to test on?
The engines are being improved all the time, so it's not surprising that it's getting better. All right.
Yeah, especially right. I think this article is back in early February, so it's almost 2 months old. So a lot of things could have changed. Definitely, definitely. Oh no, it's end of January even. Yeah. So the thing with AI tools is that the development of these tools are so rapid, right? That what you find today might be different an hour from now, even. The answers to these AI tools are not standard. They do take from a very rapidly changing source of information online. They do take data off the internet, right? And the internet's always giving off new data. So not very surprising that they're giving a different response by the hour, even. Yeah. Okay. So one more thing I do want to share. So that was a comparison. I do want to share a bit of multimodality because I see we got 10 minutes left. I don't think we're gonna jump into running DeepSeek locally. I'm sorry, guys. But something on multimodality, something that I did find out earlier this week is that I do want to make an example out of this PDF Noel shared earlier in the week, which is this 7 visuals that would rewire your brain forever. So I'm gonna run through it really quick. It's a set of visuals, helping you think from a different perspective. Even there's this one on, how success is built off 3 branches of improving, doing, and learning, on how having a growth mindset expands your jigsaw puzzle rather than keeping it closed, and so on and so forth, right? And one thing I do want to emphasize is that this document, so I'm dragging and clicking here, it's all image, right? So this is not actually text. I do want to use these 3 AI tools, Copilot, ChatGPT, and DeepSeek, on actually analyzing this document. And something very, very interesting is that, okay, give me a quick second. So this is actually the cloud version of Copilot. Not very different, but it does have you can attach a file to it. So if I try attaching this file, which is I've downloaded this earlier, if I'm trying to use it for document analysis, sadly it does have a limit of 1 MB. I think it's more used for images. So the verdict on Copilot is that it's not very suitable for document analysis, right? Especially if you have a free one. I think if you have the paid one, you can use, I think, Copilot for Word, and they'll analyze your document that way. But as far as it goes, if you want to upload it directly to Copilot, it's a bit difficult, right? But if you are looking at ChatGPT, for example, let's try uploading the earlier file. So let's tell it to analyze this. Oh, yeah. If I want to ask ChatGPT to analyze this, it does not detect any text. And I believe that ChatGPT's document input does not have OCR, which is optical character recognition. It doesn't take a look at your document, even if it's images and extracted characters out of it. So that's one con in ChatGPT, right? So I think a bit of the surprise that you're gonna see here is what happens if we use DeepSeek to do document analysis. I'm gonna upload the exact same PDF here. So analyze this for me. Right, let it upload for a little bit. So we did find that Copilot has a 1 MB upload limit. ChatGPT was not able to analyze it using OCR. It's only able to analyze it if it has text already in it. So what happens if I put it into DeepSeek, right? I ask it to analyze this 10 MB file for me. Well, while we run it for a little bit, I see a comment earlier. Is DeepSeek legal to use in the US? Whatever you're using HP or laptop with that software you visit. I'm pretty sure DeepSeek is legal to use, but of course, I don't think that you should be using some of these tools with your own corporate data, for example. Of course, maybe some of you have already heard, I think 2 years ago, when a Samsung employee put in the Samsung source code into ChatGPT, and lo and behold, other people were able to access it, right? Because they're taking this data that the Samsung employee put into ChatGPT and using it to retrain their data. So their data is stored permanently into their LLM. So while it is, I'm pretty sure it's legal to use. It's just that it's not very advisable to use it with, data that you don't want to have it spread online, pretty much. Yeah, with anti-competition in the US, anything possible, definitely. Especially, I think if you're looking at GPUs, for example, right? I think the US has a little bit of a ban on US produced GPUs being shipped over to China for use in many contexts, especially in the military industry, right? While there might not be a very concrete ban on using tools like DeepSeek in the US right now, maybe a few months, even a few weeks into the future, we could see this happening, right? Especially with the current administration being very very taxing on the foreign on the foreign relations. So your guess is as good as us, as Noah mentioned. Going back into this thing where I put our document on visuals that help you change your way of thinking. Just a little bit of a reminder. This is what it looks like. So I put analyze this for me, and lo and behold, DeepSeek was able to put in all of the information from this PDF, from the title page, page by page. It's able to see what keywords it's seeing, and from what of these different images, what sort of purpose is it giving, right? So for example, this page number 2, the one on the different branches of the cable, where's the PDF? This one over here on improving, doing, and learning, it was able to take a look at this. And you see, it's able to introduce the main themes, focusing on self-improvement. Of course, it's not very deep. I think if we use the deep think function, we could be doing it better. Or maybe analyze this in a way to message behind each image with participants. Let's see if it's able to give me something deeper. But yeah, it's able to read of stuff from this PDF, right? And when I was testing a little bit of other documents the other day, it has 100 megabyte limit. Very surprising, right? I do believe that Copilot and ChatGPT is able to do something like this, no question. But I think it's just the limit they set, right? They don't want their free tool to be used more than it already is, because something that we find, even with Copilot, is that it's really taxing on your system, and sometimes the response that comes out of it looks very cheap because they've downgraded the responses as to not to strain their LLM even. Yeah, so it does give a deeper message. But let me share what I did find the other day. So this was the response that they give me the other day. For example, the thing with the where was it? Yeah, the one on page 2. It was able to see these keywords, and then it tells that it's likely to represent the interconnectedness of these concepts. It's a very high analytic thinking, and it does give its own interpretation on the key ideas. So improving, doing, doing leading to success, success leading to learning, and learning leading to improving. So it's kind of a loop. So it's kind of the twist inside this cable. So if you do want to try out document analysis, try to upload it into DeepSeek. Tell me what you think. But so far, I am much more. Can you show how do you put a PDF file into DeepSeek or ChatGPT? So yeah, it's actually very simple. There's this paperclip button, which is you can just upload any documents or any images. And DeepSeek actually lets you upload 50 at once. So let's say you're gonna do comparisons between different images, it'll let you do that. But as long as each of these images, as you can see, it's 100 megabytes each. If you think about it, 50 times 100 megabytes, that's like 5 gigs in one prompt. It's kind of crazy what they're letting you do with DeepSeek. So you can just click on this, upload whatever. I can even upload 5 documents at once, 10 documents at once. No biggie, right? And then put it into this. If you want to use it into Copilot, there's also a paperclip button here that you can use. And ChatGPT, there's this plus setting. Yeah, plus upload from computer. Yeah, so do try it out. Tell me if you find different responses. But so far, ChatGPT and Copilot is not able to do. But I did find the DeepSeek. And yeah, it's 1 p.m. I do have to stop it right here. Before I go, I do have to chill. We do have a TTT on Microsoft Copilot. We are restarting next month, I believe, after the pause period. So please join us. We don't have a specific date yet, but usually it happens one day before my session. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. We do have recordings of this session going on in our YouTube channel. I will be posting it later. But any comments, anyone? Any thoughts? Yes, stop sharing right here.
Yeah, I think there is a question which you already answered. I think if there's any, they can still, post it into this chat, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
No, thank you,
Thank
Aaron.
you,
Thank you for
everyone,
coming.
for joining. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording. I'll post the links later.